Marshall, would you like to take it over?
Yes, thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. We do have Lindy Hill here from Bowers to answer any questions that we have in this process. So,
Thank you. My name is Lindy Hill. I'm the manager, Lori Cogman. She's the partner. She doesn't ever miss a meeting, and she texted me about 5:15 this morning that she was sick, so you must know that she's really sick. This will be with partner rotation stuff for her and I, the second year on the engagement for LTC and IBM, so overall things should go pretty smooth for the audit process, I think. Going through the minutes, obviously, things are kind of continuing from last year. You guys are spending the ARPA money. So for the LDC, we'll be required to have a single audit because they've spent more than $750,000 of federal awards. So that will be compliance testing over those ARPA funds. CECL, which was a new accounting standard that was applicable last year, still obviously coming into play in regards to the allowance and how that is determined and calculated in your process behind that. Otherwise, there's no new accounting standards or anything that will affect the financial statements this year. With a single audit last year for the LDC with the funds that were passed through to a subrecipient, we did have a instance of noncompliance and significant deficiency. So for the single audit, you will be classified as high risk this year because of the finding last year. All that means is that we have to test a higher percentage of your federal awards with a single audit, but being you only have that one program of ARPA funds, that's what we would test anyways. We just have to test a higher percentage of that program.
Could you go back and tell me again why we're high risk?
So for single audit compliance, it's if there's been any findings in the prior 2 years, or if you didn't have a single audit in the past 2 years. So you have had single audits in the 2 prior years, but last year there was one finding. So that instantly classifies you for single audit purposes only as
What
high
was
risk.
that finding last year? I thought everything was smooth.
I can't remember.
That is, so the contract with CAPC, they technically are a subrecipient of the ARPA funds that you guys received. So with federal funds and how that, you have to report to them, telling them that it's federal funds, and they also have to have compliance testing on the grant funds, how they're processing it through to daycare centers for a portion of that. So the subrecipient monitoring, which is one of the compliance requirements.
And we hadn't done that?
Correct.
Okay. Are we doing that now, Lyle?
I believe we are. Yeah, we didn't know about it.
Okay. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, we went through that last year. We even discussed back and forth with CAPC's auditor, like confirming that they were in agreement. And with some of the staff from there as well. There's kind of 2 components to the grant that goes to them. They are actually the awardee and using some of that money internally, but the funds that they're passing through to other daycare centers, they're technically a subrecipient. So you're a subrecipient of the county for the ARPA funds, and then even further, they're a subrecipient from you guys.
And there's not a
portion of the ARPA
amount
funds.
limit that they have to hit. Like I know you said it's 750,000 for the IDA, but
Yeah.
CAPC is
Correct. They would have to also, so to have a single audit, which they have many other federal grants beyond that. So they have to have a single audit if they spent more than $750 in total of all their federal grants. So with them having some other funding streams,
Okay.
but it's your due diligence to tell them that this is federal money. This is the assistance listing number and the requirements that you have to follow.
Okay.
And then you kind of have to be the ones monitoring them, making sure, same thing, that if they spent those federal dollars, that they spent them in compliance with the grant. And then same thing, if they did have a single audit, it was completed, reported on their CFA, and you guys are obtaining a copy of their
I
single
guess
audit
I missed
report.
that on the report last year too.
So did I.
Did
Okay.
Bowers, did that deficiency come from Bowers?
Yep.
and Bowers?
Yeah, that was part of our audit report and presentation last year.
I guess I'll wake up this.
Yeah, I don't remember.
So I just have a question. Dave did notify them by letter last year. We did receive, well, I don't know if it's a single audit, but we did receive their audit. Do we have to notify them every year? Or just once that was done, we just do the monitoring?
Right, yeah, so you've notified them, and it's still the same stream of funds.
Yeah.
So you don't have to notify them again annually, but now obviously they know that's federal funds and they've got to include it on their schedule of federal expenditures as well for tracking purposes.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah,
not
it is.
anything, saying that you're high risk, it's not the entity itself, it's just the compliance testing for the federal grant programs. Everything else in terms of risk assessment over LDC, standard risk, which are listed in the engagement letter, management override of control, fraud risk, that's standard risks for any audit that is performed. And then additional risk listed is some of the intercompany transactions, obviously because you guys have similar board sets for LDC, IDA, so some of those related party transactions.
So really, this was basically a hiccup
Correct, yeah.
last year?
And it's not like you guys manage federal funds
Okay,
day to day. This is kind of, the ARPA funds were a one-time thing. So again, yes, you've been notified now, they've been notified, so everyone's kind of on the same page that yes, they're a subrecipient with those federal funds.
So to hit that compliance on this year's audit, is that going to entail another 8-10 hours of audit time? Or, I mean, is any idea what that's gonna end up costing us to comply with that this year?
Right, so so for like the fee schedule, there's separate fee for the financial statement audit and then the single audit separately. Single audit, a lot of it is review of internal controls or, and the compliance requirements that are applicable to your grants. So again, you have one grant program that's obviously what we'll have to test. So yes, there is separate time for that, and the fee structure and the engagement letter, as well. So for the LDC, the fee structure would be $8,500 for the financial statement audit plus $3,300 for the single audit. $300 for required reporting to New York State, for Paris for investment reporting, and then $1,400 for the tax returns, and that includes us preparing the CHAR 500 as well, which we did for you guys last year, which has to be done separately on the New York State Charities Bureau website. So yes, the single audit fee is separately, and then when we talk about IDA, same thing, they were a single audit last year, but that will fall off and they don't need a single audit this year. So there won't be extra fee for that, for the IDA component.
any other questions? Lyle, do you have any questions?
No, I think
We're in good place.
it's pretty much the same as last year, so.
Any other fraud risks, legal issues or things like that that you should be aware of getting into it's not in the minutes, we'll see.
Is that 750 applicable for 1 year? Because a lot of that ARPA fund didn't all go out in 1 year.
Correct.
So it doesn't matter the time frame, it's just the total, whether we're
Correct, yep, in your fiscal year. So that's what, yeah, the single audit has happened now for a couple of years because the funds have been spread out.
And it will continue next year also.
Entertain a motion to send the engagement letter forward to the full board.
So,
Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second.
Multiple seconds. Rob, I just saw you up there. You have any questions?
No, I don't. I got disconnected for a minute. I'm not sure why.
We did it. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion or questions? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Well, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn the JCLDC Audit Committee meeting.
so
In that case, is it okay if we start earlier with the second one?
Yeah, I think we should keep moving.
yeah.
Okay, we'll call the
Everybody
JCIDA.
We need a second
We
on
need
that.
a second.
Oh,
Second.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I
Okay, we'll call the JCID audit meeting to order. And we'll turn it over.
Once again, thank you very much, and I will again pass on the engagement process to Lindy.
Okay, so same thing, the second year for us with the IGA also, going through the minutes there, similar operations really and things going on, it looks like as last year. For the single audit, same thing, so here for IDA, because there's not gonna be any federal expenditures over $750,000, so single audit will not be applicable for IDA. Obviously, if there is a little bit of spending of federal funds, we still look at that from compliance perspective during the financial statement audit, but a single audit is not required, so there's a lot of additional test work beyond that if it was required, and reporting items. Any other significant changes in the grant stream for IDA or the projects going on with the airport? That kind of stuff, obviously we'll get into making sure those grants are on extension if they were set to expire in 2024 and things like that. So from the IDA perspective, it should be pretty straightforward, I think.
How much was the
on
airport
process.
sewer project?
The entire project is $3.5 million for the,
But expended in 2024.
in 2024 so far, it's gonna be 500, do you think, Lyle?
we have 134 now. Do you have any invoices?
I have another, they're processing another one, but didn't we, you know, wasn't there another?
Yeah, we did,
I only asked
two
the question.
payments for the planning.
Yeah.
That
I
was,
only asked the question
200,000.
because were you asking if there's any significant stuff going on that you may not know about?
Right, so same thing. Obviously, I looked at the financials that were at the December meeting, so as of November, same thing, obviously we'll get into that when we get actual year-end financials, but.
The key is we're less than 750 though.
Right,
Okay.
and then any of those, I do not believe any of the grants are federally funded for things relating to the airport project unless it was a new grant this year that we're not aware of.
Well, no,
The
there hasn't
northern
been.
border is federal, isn't it?
Is Northern Border federal?
I believe
think
so.
it probably is, yeah.
But, the other.
We haven't taken any of the Northern Border money yet. So I don't know if that plays a part. So we're gonna be about, my guess is I think there's gonna be another 134,000 that we're gonna be getting here possibly today, because I reached out to her the day before yesterday and asked, because I know you want to get them in. before the
Year
state.
end, I need it.
Yeah,
But that's all state money, I believe.
yes, yep,
Yeah.
it would be.
And
But it would be
less-
IDA
It's
stuff.
less than 750 anyway.
And it'll be less than 750. Yeah.
The Northern Border contract, I think, is $500,000.
It's $500,000. We
So
haven't
we'll
haven't
see.
utilized any of those funds yet.
Yeah, and same thing, if there's contractor work going on, making sure you get the billing in for services through 12/31.
Yes,
And
and that's what we're working on.
that,
Yep.
so. Yeah, so obviously things like that, if there is significant activity, and things, if that took more time or anything, we'll address that as we get into it. But overall, same thing, the fee structure for IDA, because there's not a single audit, it's just the financial statement audit, IDA doesn't have to file any tax returns. So the overall fee for the IDA is $13,250. Last year, overall, that was higher because there was a single audit and things, so the fee is actually coming down in total for the IDA this year.
Lindy, does that include the tax returns for the civic facility? Usually it does.
Yes,
Or you
yeah,
have some kind
that
of-
is
yeah.
within that total fee, yes.
We will have next year we'll be over the 750, almost assuredly.
And same thing, so if IDA falls off, not needing a single audit this year, the following year you do, then similar, the IDA would be classified as high risk because they haven't had a single audit in both of the prior 2 years, so.
So it's really,
Kind of a
in
rotating.
that particular case, it's not because of any wrongdoing, it's because of just
Correct,
the
because you
fact that
didn't
you
have
didn't
a
do one.
single
Yeah,
audit.
gotcha.
Formal copies of the engagement letters are here as well for both entities for signature.
Are there any other questions? Lyle?
Nothing.
I have a question. Now that we formed the Deferred Redevelopment Corporation, is that gonna get rolled into one of these agencies, and those grants, I'm guessing are federal, since it's kind of super fundy feeling? What's happening with that?
No, that is actually a restore, the Deferiat one is a restore grant. And that's really, and that's through the county. So we're gonna be taking possession of that property when that restore grant process is complete. So really, there might not be the financial burden.
You formed a whole new agency, whether
Yeah.
we have burden or not, doesn't the audit have to audit that agency?
Yes, there will have to be an
Something to
audit, yeah.
consider, maybe, I'm aware of, because I don't want to get caught in the trap of what we just did with another audit, where even though there's really no budget or money being spent, we still have an agency.
Yeah.
And it may have to be audited.
Or it will have to be.
Yeah,
It
that's
will.
what-
Yeah.
We saw that in the minutes and I kind of been pushing back to get some of that documentation this week and it looks like it is obviously formed as an entity. It doesn't look like the form has been filed with the IRS yet to classify as, and get nonprofit exemption. But kind of similar to the FTC there, it'll be a component of the IDA based on ownership. So similar, it will technically flow into that audit. And set of financials, even though there's not financial activity this year or a bank account and financing in there. But same thing with that, because it's not for nonprofit exemption yet. It may have to file like a blank corporate tax return for 2024 until the nonprofit exemption is approved with the IRS.
I guess the question I have is, when you look through the audit for this year, determine what the strategy would be for next year, so that if we do have to budget, like this might be one of those $300 add-ons, if we have to budget something for the audit for that agency, we just at least know about it.
Okay, yep.
If there's no other questions, I'd entertain a motion to forward the engagement letter forward to the full board.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
David, all in favor? Aye. If there's no further business, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Did you have anything else?
We have a motion from Rob Aliasso. Is there a second?
Second, Rob.
Second, Rob. Rob and Rob. We've been robbed.
Rob squared.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I cede the chairmanship to Ed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Everybody have a safe day.
See you, Rob.
Bye.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, because we had to reschedule.
all right, I guess we can start the personnel committee. It's the next on the agenda. So with that, first order is reviewing the pension plan. And I guess we're gonna kind of talk about the contribution this year.
Okay.
There's an amount, specific amount. So go ahead, Marshall.
Well, I really,
Did we have, excuse me,
yeah, please.
normally Lyle has a breakdown for us what these numbers are gonna be.
Yeah, you should have
It's in the
it.
packet.
The first line is the employer's contribution to the 401k plan.
Do you have one here?
We budgeted 46.7.
Hey, you
We're
have
at-
an extra copy?
We're actually coming in a little over 24. So we're under budget by
Page
22,000. No, the discretionary portion of the 401k that was budgeted is the 15,570. So that would be the number that we would recommend as a discretionary contribution. And the budget numbers for salaries, we budgeted 6,055. We're coming in well under 525 because we're down 2 people. So we're under budget on salaries. We're under budget on the 401k. So we do have excess that would be applied to this discretionary if approved.
So comparison from last year's contribution to this year's,
About the same.
about the same. Yeah. It's coming in.
Yeah.
Even though, our payroll is 80,000 less. Anything to add, Marshall?
I don't really have much to add. If we want to talk about, I feel like the being understaffed is a question or a discussion for another time, really. But we can certainly talk about it. But on on anything discretionary, I, of course, will always go to bat for the people that work here. And so, I mean,
I'll make a motion, we do the 3% discretionary.
I'll second it.
Okay, any other discussion? Any other questions regarding it? If not, probably. All those in favor?
So short staff, are we short staffed? What I mean by that is I know when you took this role on, you wanted to give a little time. And is that what you're starting to feel that?
no, I think we're doing great. Yes, I think that there are, areas that could be improved upon. But I think, it's a tough thing. I don't feel that there's anything that we've missed, that had we had more people, we might be, I don't feel like we've missed any opportunities that have come along because of that. Maybe marketing could be better if there was more time. If I had more time to work on that, I'd do the marketing.
Could we contract that out, some of that?
Potentially, you can contract everything out now. Everybody's just waiting for us to contract it with them. And so it's a interesting case. But from a working standpoint, I think that in my opinion, they're doing an outstanding job. And people here that they know their job and they're doing a great job at it.
I just wanted, if you had concerns.
I have no concerns.
Awesome.
Can I ask a question? I'm not on the committee. So marketing, we retained a Wallace law firm.
Yep.
To do work for us.
Yep.
But that's related around Micron. Do you see that other things are going to fall to the wayside in marketing as it seems like everyone is getting laser focused on Micron. Are we going to think we'll miss anything by not having?
I don't. I feel like actually, all of the regional partners that we work with, like Drum Country, for example, we as part of that organization really stepped up our game from the social media perspective, as well as there's some new video pieces that are coming out telling the story of Drum Country. And the thing with yes, the engagement with strategic development is going to take the time. I mean, next Monday we have a meeting with them in the morning, and then on Tuesday I'm headed back down there with the county administrator on Tuesday morning to meet with some folks down there. So just the fact that there's a time commitment, but I don't feel that the marketing we've been working in a lot of cases with the same people that we've been working with for a number of years on our marketing campaigns. I don't know. We've got a lot of earned media lately. Also, one other thing I want to touch on where we're in the news with with positive things. Some things that I thought were going to be not necessarily as positive have been sort of greeted with a yawn, as a surprise. But it's I don't feel that the marketing necessarily has taken a hit per se. But it's just another thing that we have to work on and continue to do well.
Yeah, marketing, it's like in different tiers, man. You've got your social media outlets and all those pump outs, but then another part of marketing is almost that business development part where you're looking into developing relationships before there's even thoughts of a shovel going into the ground somewhere. And that's how was it Fairlife? I think people were talking to them probably 5 years before anybody else. That's part of it too, is like staying way ahead of it. So it's funny to say marketing dollars. You can make it as big as you want, because as you know, but it's time. How much time do we have to do this stuff? But yeah, I don't know. It's not, it's just people have a view of what marketing is, but it's bigger than what people might think.
And to your point,
Yeah.
Like our relationship with ESD, has over the course of the last couple of months, and with a couple of projects we've been working on, has greatly improved, as well as, not that we didn't had a poor relationship with the ag commission before, but now our relationship is great.
Yeah.
You know, and those are, you know, critical marketing things. And so, you know, it's one of those weird things where, you know, you can do more with less, and you're always trying to do more with less, but, boy, we've really been, this last year, we've been pretty successful with it.
Yeah, it's time, you know.
Yeah.
That's where the money needs to be spent. Time, travel, whatever. But, and I see Jay's getting around these different, that's great. I think that's great.
It is. It absolutely is.
Marshall, would you say you are in complete synchronization with the Development Authority along those lines? You know, I'm always amazed, you know, whenever Michelle presents what she's working on, and they have resources. They are doing a lot of things above and beyond us.
Yeah.
And now that we've engaged with the engagement letter from, you know, marketing through Micron, you know, granted, they're kind of focused on that,
Yep.
but still the everyday stuff, the other stuff, are we in complete step with them as we coordinate those efforts?
Absolutely. I mean, we're a part of what the Development Authority does. You know, I talk to Michelle every day, you know, and it's.
I'm amazed. They pull resources. They
do.
are the golden child,
They
you
have
know,
a-
to some degree.
They have excellent people and a good budget, so it is good for them.
Only half that kind of budget.
Yeah. And I mean, and Michelle Capone is a superstar.
Yeah.
She just is. So
The other comment I'll make about resource or your personnel resources, rolling out the ARPA funds, huge success, took a lot of man hours, a lot of detail work, you know, applications, compliance and all that, working through that, you know, it's kind of, we're over the hump, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
We're on the downward side. Now we got to monitor some enforcement.
Yep.
But that should free up a little bit of time requirements,
totally.
which I think is going to have to get applied to over on our compliance side.
Yeah.
You know, when you look at what we've got to kind of
Deal with.
governance, and
Yeah.
now, you know, to hit that compliance, I see we got to, and we got to make it easy for the businesses to do that, you know?
Yep.
So it's going to take some more man hours out of this office, I think, to put frustration on a lot of these businesses to comply.
Yeah, we are over the hump on that. In some ways, there is still the time piece. We have it sort of baked into our processes better now. You know, it's like anything. You know, you just get better at doing it as we've been going along. You know, Peg, Robin, Lyle. I mean, we're all and Jay with his grant programs. You know, it's going very smoothly, but it is an incredible time commitment over these last 2 years that we've been doing this, and I am looking forward to moving on. And you say about the policies, the things that we're going to be working on moving forward. You know, I feel like we're going to lick those problems, no problem too.
They're very solvable.
Absolutely.
You know, it's you know, coming up with a form and making sure the form is in the filing cabinet, you
Yeah.
know, kind of a deal.
I think you're going to find that, you know, as we talked about, and you had mentioned yesterday in your voicemail to me that I got late in the evening, and I got your second voicemail, like, oh, okay, don't feel like you have to call me. So, okay. But, you know, I think you're going to find, and this is, you know, thanks to the work that Peg's doing, it's just, we're going to have it into our system and everything is going to be fine.
Yeah.
Okay? It is fine.
Yeah. All right. Anything we need to address with employee handbook? We've handled the contribution.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to, you know, there's a number of spaces here that we have, you know, made some, all the red, right?
Mhm.
You know, has been changed somewhat. I don't know how closely, we've been talking about this stuff for months and months. So, as far as I'm concerned, let's send it to the board for final approval and move on. These are things that are just, changes in handbooks that need to be made, and that's what we're doing.
Are there, so when you make the changes in the handbook and every year something could be new from the state that we have to do.
Yeah.
Who keeps track of it? Do you have this checked by an HR firm, or does somebody just kind of give it a once and say, whoa, you're missing this?
Where did the
Well, that's
anti-nepotism
what we
piece?
just did with this.
That's on governance.
Oh,
Okay.
What's that?
okay, that's
Well,
all.
how did we hear about it? The anti-nepotism, the need for that,
Oh, that was for the state grant.
for that,
registration.
okay.
Anti-nepotism.
Yeah.
Where are you gonna find your bricklayers? Just kidding. We're not recording.
We are recording and we are streaming.
But yes, we did use a company called One Digital that gave us all
Yeah.
these.
All right.
I guess my point there was the years ago when I was in that industry, we'll call it. It was a lot of the fathers and sons, and then the sons and their sons, and but that all gone away. But that was what made the industry so successful, is the talents were just being passed along one to the next. But
But as I recall, we paid a fee and hired
Yep.
one or two individuals to go through our employee handbook, and those were all the regular there.
Yes.
Upgrades.
Yep.
To be in compliance. So, and they're certified to be knowledgeable in that field.
Yes, this is what they do.
Yeah.
Yep.
So were there any, of all those proposed changes in the handbook, did any comments from Peggy or Marshall on anything that surprised you or stood out? Other than just kind of house cleaning?
No, not really. I think that's a good way to put it. Cleaning this up and making it as usable and good of a guide as we possibly can.
Okay. All right, then, everybody comfortable with forwarding that recommendation on to the board as
I'll make the motion to forward it to the board.
second.
all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
Okay. The only thing left is Marshall's evaluation.
Wait, I make a motion, we go into executive session to discuss personnel matter
Second that motion.
and ask that everyone, all staff leave except for Marshall.
Recording stopped.
Chair here.